The sky was quiet. The rivers had dried up. The trees were brown, and the earth was cracking beneath the people's feet. It had not rained in Israel for 3 whole years. People whispered, "Why is this happening? Where is the rain?" Their animals were weak. Their crops had died. The land was crying for water. Suddenly, across the hills, a loud and bold voice echoed like thunder.
"There will be no rain or dew in the land, until I say so."
And just like that, boom! Thunder rumbled in the distance. Lightning flashed across the sky. Then, silence. It was not Elijah's words that held power, it was God's word spoken through him. God had sent his prophet, Elijah, to speak to a nation that had forgotten him. And the skies listened. Long ago, Israel had a wise king, King Solomon. He loved God. He built a beautiful temple and helped the people worship the Lord. But Solomon was gone. And now, a new king sat on the throne, King Ahab. Ahab did not walk in Solomon's footsteps. He did not pray to the Lord. He did not follow God's commands. Worse still, he married a woman named Jezebel, a princess from another land. But Jezebel did not believe in the true God. She believed in a fake god called Baal, a god made of stone who could not hear or speak or help. Together, Ahab and Jezebel led the people of Israel far away from God. They built temples and statues for Baal. They threw away God's laws. They told lies about God's prophets. They even tried to get rid of anyone who still believed in the Lord. But there was one man who would not bow to Baal. One man who still listened to God. One man who stood alone, but never truly alone, because God was with him. His name was Elijah. One day, God spoke to Elijah again.
"Go and show yourself to King Ahab. It's time to settle this, once and for all."
Elijah nodded. He knew it was dangerous. Jezebel was hunting down God's prophets. But Elijah trusted God. He walked straight into Ahab's palace, bold and unafraid. As soon as King Ahab saw Elijah, he pointed his finger and shouted,
"There you are, you troublemaker! You're the reason Israel is suffering. You brought this drought upon us."
But Elijah stood tall.
"No, my king. You are the troublemaker. You turned away from the Lord. You followed Baal and led the people into sin. But now, it's time to show everyone who the real God is."
Elijah looked the king in the eyes and gave a bold challenge.
"Call all the people of Israel to Mount Carmel. Bring the 450 prophets of Baal. We will each prepare a sacrifice, one for Baal, and one for the Lord. But we will not light any fire. The God who answers by sending fire from heaven, he is the true God."
Ahab was surprised, but he agreed. Messengers ran across the land, calling everyone to come. The people gathered, mothers, fathers, children, old and young. They all climbed Mount Carmel, ready to see what would happen. On one side stood 450 noisy prophets of Baal. On the other, one man, Elijah. But Elijah had something stronger than numbers. He had God. The mountain rumbled with footsteps. Men, women, and children climbed up to see what would happen. 2 altars were being prepared, one for Baal, one for God. Elijah stood on one side, all alone. The prophets of Baal stood proudly on the other. There were so many of them.
How long will you keep switching between 2 choices? If the Lord is God, follow him. If Baal is God, then follow him. But make a choice today.
The people were quiet. No one answered. So, Elijah gave the rules again. 2 bulls. 2 altars. No fire. Each side must pray to their God. The one who answers with fire, he is the real God. The prophets of Baal went first. They picked their bull and placed it on the altar. Then they started dancing and shouting.
Baal, answer us! Baal, send fire!
They danced from morning until noon. They leaped and spun. They shouted louder and louder. But nothing happened. No fire. No voice. No answer. Elijah sat and watched, shaking his head. Then he stood up and called out.
Maybe Baal is sleeping. Or on a trip. Or maybe he's too busy to hear you. Shout louder.
The prophets grew wild. They cut themselves with sharp stones, hoping Baal would notice. But still, nothing. Not a spark. Not a sound. Then Elijah said,
Come close, everyone.
The people gathered around him. Quiet. Curious. Elijah repaired God's altar that had been broken down. He took 12 stones, 1 for each tribe of Israel, and built a strong altar. Then he dug a deep trench all around it. He placed the wood. He laid the bull on top. But Elijah didn't stop there. He did something strange, something bold.
Fill for large jars with water and pour it over the sacrifice.
Water? On the wood? On the meat? Yes. Once, twice, 3 times. Until the wood was soaked, the stones were wet, and the trench was filled with water. Elijah stepped forward. No dancing. No shouting. Just one simple prayer.
O Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, show these people that you are the true God and that I am your servant. Let them know that everything I do is because of you. Answer me, Lord, so these people will turn their hearts back to you.
And then, it happened. Fire fell from the sky. Bright. Hot. Powerful. It burned the meat. It burned the wood. It burned the stones. It licked up every drop of water, even in the trench. The people fell to the ground in shock.
The Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God.
He is God.
The prophets of Baal were defeated. The people now knew the truth. But the land was still dry. Still dusty. Still thirsty. Then Elijah turned to King Ahab.
Go, eat and drink. I hear the sound of heavy rain.
But the sky was still blue. No clouds. No wind. Elijah climbed to the very top of the mountain. He knelt down. Head low. Face between his knees. And he prayed. He told his servant,
Go look toward the sea.
Nothing.
The servant ran and looked. Elijah prayed again. And again. And again. 7 times. On the 7th time, the servant shouted,
I see a small cloud, as small as a man's hand, rising from the sea.
That tiny cloud grew bigger and darker. And then, the wind blew. Thunder rumbled. Raindrops fell. First a sprinkle. Then a shower. Then a storm.
Hurry, King Ahab, ride fast before the rain stops you.
Elijah shouted. And as Ahab rode away in his chariot, the power of God came upon Elijah, and he ran ahead of the chariot, all the way to the city. Dear one, hope you will never forget what happened on Mount Carmel. How Elijah stood up for God. 450 prophets of Baal shouted, danced, and called for fire, but nothing happened. Then Elijah prayed a simple prayer, and fire came down from heaven. Whoosh! It burned the wood. It burned the stones. It even licked up the water Elijah had poured on the altar. What did you learn from that? It simply revealed how God showed everyone that He is the true God. Not Baal. Not any statue or idol. Only the Lord is real and powerful. Elijah trusted God. He obeyed, even when it was scary. And did God fail him? No. Never. When you stand for what is right, when you pray and trust God, even if you're the only one, you're never alone. Can you imagine standing alone on a mountain, surrounded by enemies, yet not afraid? That's what happened to Elijah. He stood on Mount Carmel, bold and fearless, because he knew God was with him. Hundreds of prophets of Baal prayed, danced, and shouted to their false god. Nothing happened. But Elijah? He prayed a simple prayer. And God answered with fire from heaven. Whoosh! The fire burned the wood, the stones, and even the water Elijah poured on the altar. God didn't fail Elijah, not even once. He showed up with power. He showed everyone that He is the only true God. So here's something to remember, kids. When you do what's right, even when it feels like you're standing alone, God sees you. And He never forgets those who trust Him. After the fire fell and the people shouted, "The Lord, He is God," Elijah must have thought everything would change. That Israel would turn back to God. That the wicked Queen Jezebel would repent. But that's not what happened. Instead, Queen Jezebel sent Elijah a message.
By this time tomorrow, it'll make sure you're dead.
Elijah had just faced 450 false prophets without fear. But when he heard Jezebel's threat, his heart grew heavy. He was tired. He felt alone. So Elijah ran. He ran into the desert. He left his servant behind. And under a tree, Elijah sat down and prayed.
I've had enough, Lord. Take my life. I'm no better than those before me.
Have you ever felt like that? Like you tried your best, but nothing changed? Like giving up? That's how Elijah felt. But God wasn't finished with Elijah. Not even close. As Elijah slept under the tree, an angel touched him.
Get up and eat.
Elijah opened his eyes, and saw freshly baked bread and a jar of water. He ate, drank, and lay back down. But the angel came again.
Get up and eat. The journey ahead is too much for you.
Elijah ate again. And with that food, he had enough strength to walk for 40 days and 40 nights. He journeyed to Mount Horeb, the same mountain where Moses met God. There, Elijah found a cave and went inside.
Elijah, what are you doing here?
I've been very zealous for you. But the Israelites have turned away. They've broken your altars and killed your prophets. I'm the only one left, and now they want to kill me too.
God told Elijah to stand on the mountain, because he was about to pass by. Then came something amazing. A powerful wind tore through the mountains. Rocks crumbled and flew everywhere. But God wasn't in the wind. Then came an earthquake. The ground shook beneath Elijah's feet. But God wasn't in the earthquake. Then came a fire. Flames flickered across the mountain. But God wasn't in the fire either. Then came a gentle whisper. And that's when Elijah covered his face. Because in the whisper, God was there. Again, God asked,
Elijah, what are you doing here?
Elijah repeated his sorrow. He still felt alone. But God gave him a mission.
Go back the way you came. Anoint Hazael as king over Aram. Anoint Jehu as king over Israel. And anoint Elisha to take your place as prophet.
God reminded Elijah that he had a plan. There were still 7,000 people in Israel who hadn't bowed to Baal. Elijah wasn't alone, not really. God had been working behind the scenes all along. Elijah obeyed. As he traveled, he found a young man named Elisha plowing a field. God told Elijah, "That's the one." Elijah took off his prophet's cloak, and gently placed it on Elisha's shoulders. Elisha left everything behind, his oxen, his family, his work. And he followed Elijah. At last, Elijah wasn't walking alone anymore. God had given him a helper, a student, a friend. Sometimes we expect God to show up in fire and wind and loud miracles. But often, He comes in a whisper. Sometimes, we feel tired, afraid, lonely. But just like with Elijah, God sees you. He sends His angels. He gives strength for the journey. He reminds us we're not alone. So, kids, here's your food for thought. God doesn't always show up in big, noisy ways. Sometimes He whispers, and we must listen. When you feel discouraged, don't give up. God still has a plan. You're not alone. Even when you feel like it, God has people, helpers, and friends just waiting to walk with you. And most of all, remember Elijah. God never failed him. And He will never fail you either. But trouble wasn't over for Israel. Even though God had shown His power on Mount Carmel. Even though the people had shouted, "The Lord, He is God." Their hearts were still learning how to trust and obey. And King Ahab? Well, he still hadn't changed much. He saw the miracle. He knew God was real. But he still liked doing things his way, not God's way. That's when a new danger came. A powerful king from another land. King Ben-Hadad of Aram gathered his army. He had 32 kings with him. His soldiers were strong. His horses and chariots rumbled like thunder. He marched right toward Israel, ready to take everything.
Your silver and gold are mine. Your best wives and children, I will take them too.
Ahab was afraid. He agreed quickly. But then Ben-Hadad sent another message.
Tomorrow, my men will come to your palace. They will take whatever they want, everything precious in your eyes.
This time, Ahab said no. He gathered the elders, the wise men of Israel. They all agreed, saying, "We must not let him take everything."
I will crush you. Not even the dust of Samaria will be enough to fill the hands of my soldiers.
That's when a new prophet came with a message from God.
Do you see this great army? Today, the Lord will give them into your hand. Then you will know that I am the Lord.
Even though King Ahab wasn't acting like a godly king, God still wanted to show His people that He was in control. The army of Israel was small. They had no match for Ben-Hadad's huge army. But guess what? Instead of sending the strongest soldiers, God told Ahab to send the young men, the helpers of the governors. Ahab counted them, 232 young men. Behind them came 7,000 soldiers of Israel. That's it. Just 7,232 men, against thousands and thousands. But they had something Ben-Hadad didn't have. They had the Lord. The young men ran out of the city. Ben-Hadad wasn't even paying attention, he was drinking in his tent. "Attack!" the Israelites shouted. Surprise swept over the enemy camp. The big, scary army began to run. Ben-Hadad jumped on his horse and fled. His army followed. Israel had won. God gave them victory, not because they were strong, but because He is strong. After the victory, the prophet came back.
Listen, King Ahab, next spring, Ben-Hadad will return. He'll bring his army again, so get ready, be strong, trust God.
The prophet was right. The next spring, Ben-Hadad gathered his army once more. But this time, they said something foolish.
The God of Israel is only strong in the hills. If we fight in the valleys, well, when...
But they didn't know the truth. God isn't just the God of the hills. He's the God of everything, the hills, the valleys, the sky, the sea, and the whole world. The two armies met again. Israel's army looked like two small flocks of goats. Ben-Hadad's army filled the land. But the prophet spoke once more.
God says because they think He is only a God of the hills, He will deliver this huge army into your hands again. Then all will know He is the Lord.
For 7 days the armies waited. On the 7th day, the battle began. And once again, God gave Israel the victory. But something sad happened. Instead of capturing Ben-Hadad like God wanted, King Ahab made a deal with him. He let him go free. A prophet came again, this time with sorrow.
Because you didn't obey the Lord's command, you let the enemy go. Now trouble will come to your house.
God had shown King Ahab miracle after miracle. He had won the battle twice. He had proven he was Lord of all. But King Ahab still chose his own way. What about you? Will you listen to God's voice? Will you trust Him, even when others don't? Remember, God never loses a battle. His power is bigger than any army. And when He speaks, listen and obey. Children, Elijah wasn't powerful on his own. He was brave because he trusted God. He was outnumbered, 1 against 450, but he stood for truth. He didn't shout louder. He didn't dance or scream. He just prayed. And God answered. What do we learn from Elijah's story? Always trust God, even when others don't. God is real, and He listens when we pray. You don't need to be loud or famous to be strong, you just need to stand for what's right. When we follow God, He shows up in powerful ways. God is the only true God. We should stand for what's right, even if we're the only one. Prayer is powerful. Faith in God brings answers. And so, Elijah showed all of Israel who the real God was, not Baal, not any idol, but the Lord. He didn't need to shout. He didn't need a crowd. He just needed faith. And God did the rest. That's all for today, my amazing friends. But guess what? Our adventure isn't over. Stay tuned for our next exciting Bible story. You won't want to miss it. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel so you'll be the first to know when our new story drops. See you soon, lovely souls. Bye-bye.